Our past shapes us, but it doesn't have to trap us. One day, your life will replay before your eyes, so make sure it's something you'll want to see. Real strength isn't about convincing others to stay. It's letting them go if that's what they choose. Be careful with your kindness, though, as some will take advantage of it. People may only care when you're useful to them. Before we continue, okay, let's continue the course. You won't always be certain about your decisions, but it's better to make one and adjust later than to never decide at all. Never take someone's emotions for granted. You don't know how much it took for them to open up. Just be yourself and let people see the unique, imperfect, wonderful person you are. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond. Without a bad apple, you'd never appreciate the good ones. Be so kind that you don't forget to be wise, and don't be so clever that you forget to be kind. A person's true character shows in how they handle hard times. Life gets better once you accept that no one really cares as much as you do. Love alone isn't enough for a lasting relationship. It's about being open and communicating even when it's tough. But if you're given a second chance, don't waste it. Enjoying your own company shows strength. Sometimes being alone gives you space to grow, helps you value the quiet moments and appreciate the simple things. Always remember, your focus creates your reality. Focus on the hurt, and you'll keep suffering. Focus on the positive, and you'll find peace. The lesson is simple: keep growing. Sometimes walking away isn't about not caring. It's about realizing they don't, and that's self-respect. Accept yourself, love yourself, and keep moving forward. I've been guilty of most of these things myself. If you're still with me, we're about to dive into something that might stir the pot a bit. It's going to be uncomfortable at times, and maybe even a little fun. Ready to see if you're unintentionally being the worst? Let's go. Let's start with gossip. We've all done it, right? Don't deny it. I can practically see you nodding. Whether it's sharing some office drama or talking about someone's latest relationship mess, it feels harmless. And let's be honest, who doesn't like feeling in the loop? It's almost like we're programmed for it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. When you're the one spreading gossip, guess what other people are thinking? After they talk about someone else behind their back, they're wondering, what are they saying about me when I'm not around? Gossip creates a sneaky cycle of distrust, and I learned this the hard way. I used to think that sharing the latest scoop would make me more likable, that people would find me fun and relatable. But the opposite happened. People started keeping their conversations with me superficial. They didn't trust me with the real stuff. I became that person who knew everyone's business but didn't have anyone close. Painful, right? And it doesn't stop there. Gossip isn't just damaging to others, it's bad for you too. When you're always wrapped up in what other people are doing, you're avoiding dealing with your own issues. It's like a weird way to distract yourself from your own problems. The more I focused on other people's mistakes, the less I paid attention to what I needed to work on in my own life. Gossiping doesn't just harm your relationships, it's toxic to you. It breeds negativity and insecurity. Instead of building others up, you're quietly tearing them down, and in the process, you're dragging yourself down too. I realized that if I wanted real, genuine connections, I had to stop using gossip as a shortcut to bond with people. So, if you're out here gossiping, thinking it's all harmless fun, spoiler alert, it's not. People notice, they remember, and they definitely start to back off. Trust me, I've been there. Here's the real kicker. There's a lot more strength in shutting down gossip than in spreading it. Next time someone tries to pull you into the latest drama, try saying, "Nah, I'm good." You'll be surprised how quickly you start earning actual respect. After all, we've all got our own issues to deal with. Why waste time focusing on everyone else's? Now, on to being passive. The art of being passive-aggressive. The act of saying one thing while meaning something totally different, yet still expecting others to figure it out. You know the drill. The classic "I'm fine" with that deadpan look that screams, "You're anything but fine." Or when someone asks for a favor and you respond with, "Yeah, sure, whatever," while secretly plotting revenge. We've all been there. It's a strange form of emotional manipulation. I used to think being passive-aggressive was a genius way to avoid conflict. Why have an argument when you can drop subtle hints and make the other person feel guilty for not reading your mind, right? Wrong. I learned the hard way that people can't read minds, and if they can, they're probably ignoring those passive-aggressive vibes on purpose. Real talk. I used to be the queen of passive-aggressive texts. If someone cancelled plans, instead of saying, "Hey, that kind of sucked," I'd hit them with a sarcastic, "Wow, must be nice to be so busy." Or if a friend annoyed me, I'd go silent, waiting for them to magically figure out why I was upset. Spoiler, no one ever did. I just came off as a dramatic mess. Here's the thing with passive aggression. It's like emotional dodgeball. You think you're avoiding a problem, but really you're just throwing frustration at people without giving them a chance to fix it. It's exhausting for you and everyone else. And the worst part? It makes people see you as difficult, manipulative, or just plain childish. No one wants to deal with someone who can't say what they really mean. Passive aggression is just fear of being vulnerable, plain and simple. We think we're protecting ourselves from conflict, but really, we're just wrecking our relationships. Instead of saying, "Hey, that hurt," or "I'm upset because..." Зрение. Мы играем эти игры, надеясь, что другие найдут выход. But here's the hard truth. It's not their job to guess how you feel. It's your job to speak up. I remember the moment it hit me. I was in a big fight with a friend, tossing out passive-aggressive comments, thinking they'd finally catch on. Instead, they just looked at me and said, "If you can't tell me what's actually wrong, I can't help you." And boom, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I wasn't being clever by keeping my feelings inside. I was being a coward. Since that day, I've made it a point to just say what's on my mind. Crazy, I know, but here's the thing. It's scary at first, but then it feels amazing. When you stop playing emotional dodgeball and start having real conversations, things actually improve. People respect honesty, even when it's tough to hear. And more importantly, you start respecting yourself for not hiding behind those passive-aggressive walls. So the next time you're about to send that snarky, "I guess that's fine" text, or freeze someone out, ask yourself, do you want to keep avoiding the issue, or do you want to face it and actually grow? Trust me, life gets so much easier when you stop expecting people to read your mind and just tell them how you feel. And who knows, they might actually fix the issue. Wild, right? Now, on to never taking responsibility. Let's be real, we've all met someone like this. Nothing is ever their fault. Missed a deadline. Oh, it's because the Wi-Fi went down. Bombed a test. That teacher just has it out for them. And hey, I've been there too. I used to be a pro at coming up with excuses. Let's admit it, passing the blame does feel pretty good. It takes the weight off and makes us feel less guilty, like a get-out-of-jail-free card. But here's the harsh reality. When you constantly shift the blame, you're basically saying you can't handle your own life. People start seeing you as unreliable, immature, and, let's face it, kind of a mess. Let me give you a personal example. Back in school, I was famous for never doing my homework, but I always had an excuse lined up. The printer broke, I had too much work for other classes, or my favorite, I didn't know it was due today. Eventually, one of my teachers pulled me aside and said, "Every time you make an excuse, you're robbing yourself of a chance to grow. You'll never get better if you don't own up to your mistakes." And wow, that hit me hard. Because here's the thing, excuses feel safe. They protect us from criticism, from feeling like failures, but they also trap us in a cycle of mediocrity. When you refuse to take responsibility, you give up your power to change things. If it's always someone else's fault, how are you ever going to improve? Spoiler, you're not. I came to realize that all those excuses weren't doing me any favors. They were holding me back. Every time I blamed someone or something else, I was dodging the uncomfortable truth. Maybe I just didn't put in the work. Maybe I could have tried harder. And you know what? That's not a bad realization. Real growth comes when you can say, yeah, I messed up, but I'm going to learn from it. Taking responsibility is a form of freedom. When you own your mistakes, you're finally in a position to do something about them. I remember the first time I actually took responsibility for a mistake at work. I missed a deadline, and instead of spinning my usual web of excuses, I just admitted it. I didn't manage my time well. I'll do better next time. And guess what happened? My boss didn't blow up. No one lost their mind. They respected me more for taking ownership. That's when I realized people don't expect perfection. They just want honesty and accountability. But let's be real, taking responsibility sucks in the moment. Nobody likes feeling like they've dropped the ball. Still, long term, it's a game changer. When you stop hiding behind excuses, people begin to trust you more, and you start trusting yourself too. Isn't it better to own your mistakes than to live in constant anxiety about being found out? Besides, life becomes so much easier when you're not trying to keep track of all your excuses. No more mental gymnastics trying to remember what your last excuse was. Just take the hit, learn from it, and move on. So next time you're tempted to blame the dog, the weather, or the universe for messing up, try this instead. Own it. Yeah, it's scary at first, but trust me, it feels way better in the end. And guess what? People might actually respect you more for it. Crazy idea, right? Now get out there and start owning your mistakes. Your future self will thank you. Now let's move on to basic hygiene. Yep, we're going there. It's one of those things we shouldn't have to talk about, but clearly we do. After all this time, you'd think everyone would have figured out soap and water by now, but apparently not everyone has. Let's be honest, no one wants to be that person people are avoiding because of, well, a certain smell. But it happens. And look, I'm not here to judge. Okay, maybe a little, but mostly I'm here to help you avoid being that person. I'll admit something. Back in middle school, I went through a phase where I thought deodorant was optional. My logic was, if I don't feel sweaty, I must be fine, right? So wrong. I didn't realize it until someone awkwardly suggested I try a new body spray. Yeah, that was my wake-up call. Nothing like realizing you've been unintentionally stinking up the place to make you rethink some life choices. Believe me, after that awkward moment, I rushed home and stocked up on everything in the hygiene aisle. But here's the thing, not to stir the pot, but hygiene isn't just about smelling nice. It's about showing respect, not only for others, but for yourself too. Here's the tough reality. When you neglect basic hygiene, people start wondering what else you might be neglecting. It's like an unspoken red flag saying, if they can't handle a shower, how can they handle bigger responsibilities? It's not fair, but that's how people think. And it's more than just body odor. We're talking about unbrushed teeth, greasy hair, dirty clothes, the whole deal. If you're walking around looking like you've rolled out of bed for the third day in a row, people start to wonder, are they okay? Are they even trying? But there's a deeper layer here. Sometimes a lack of hygiene is a sign of something bigger: depression, burnout, low self-esteem. It's all connected. When I was going through a rough patch, I caught myself skipping the basics, thinking, what's the point? But the truth is, neglecting your physical self only drags you down further mentally. I went through a period where work and stress completely overwhelmed me, and my self-care took a nosedive. I'd skip showers, wear the same clothes from the day before, and hope no one noticed. But they did. Eventually, a close friend asked, "Hey, are you okay? You seem a little off lately." That was my wake-up call. I realized that letting my hygiene slip was just a symptom of something bigger. I wasn't taking care of my mental health either. Hygiene isn't just about looking or smelling good. It's about self-respect. It's the first step in showing the world and yourself that you're worth the effort. When you start letting go of the basics, it's like telling yourself, "I don't matter," and that can quickly spiral into self-doubt. But here's the good news. Taking small steps, like brushing your teeth or washing your hair, can actually give you the boost you need to feel better. It's funny how something so simple can shift your whole mindset. And yeah, I know some days, even the thought of dragging yourself into the shower feels like trying to climb Everest. But trust me, once you do, you'll feel like a brand new person. Plus, let's be real, the people around you will thank you too. It's a win-win. And seriously, there's nothing more satisfying than that fresh, clean feeling after a shower. So do yourself a favor, lather up, slap on some deodorant, brush those teeth, and go out there smelling like the champ you are. Good hygiene isn't about impressing others, it's about taking care of you. So if you're still wondering whether you should hop in the shower today, here's your sign. Go for it. You'll feel better afterward. Now let's talk about constant complaining. Let's be real for a second. We all know that one person who finds something to complain about no matter what. They could be on a tropical beach, drink in hand, and still grumble about how sunny it is, or how sandy the sand is. You know the type, right? And here's the kicker. If you're sitting there thinking, "Wait, I don't know anyone like that," you might be that person. But don't worry, we've all been there, myself included. I went through a phase, especially when I was stressed out, where I complained non-stop. And it wasn't even about the big stuff. I'd walk into work and be like, "Ugh, why is it so cold in here?" Or, "Why is this coffee so awful?" It was like I couldn't stop. Then one day, a friend just told me straight up, "You know, you complain more than anyone I've ever met, right?" And wow, that stung. I didn't even realize how negative I'd become. Let's be real. Constant complaining is exhausting for both you and everyone around you. Negativity has this way of spreading, and when you're always focused on what's wrong, people start seeing you as a walking dark cloud. Even worse, they start avoiding you. Trust me, when people see you coming and immediately look for the nearest exit to dodge another rant, it's a bad sign. Now let's get a little uncomfortable. Complaining feels good in the moment. It's like venting your frustration. But the truth is, constant complaining isn't as harmless as it seems. It creates a loop where all you see is what's wrong, and soon your brain is trained to ignore anything good around you. And if you're always the one bringing the negative energy, people start to think maybe the real issue is you. Harsh, right? Here's the deeper problem. Constant complaining is usually covering something bigger. When I was in my complaining phase, it wasn't really about the cold office or the bad coffee. It was about feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and out of control. Complaining was my outlet, but it wasn't actually helping anything. If anything, it made me feel worse. Complaining was just amplifying the negativity in my life, not solving anything. I realized that by focusing on what was wrong, I wasn't actually fixing problems. I was just broadcasting them. And let's be honest, no one wants to listen to the same old loop of negativity. So I tried something different. Every time I felt like complaining, I'd pause and ask myself, "Okay, what can I do about this?" If I couldn't change it, I let it go. If I could, I stopped complaining and took action. It wasn't easy at first, but over time I saw a huge change, not just in how people reacted to me, but in how I felt about myself. Here's the thing, Life is always going to throw challenges your way. Things will go wrong sometimes, that's just part of it. But constantly focusing on the negative stops you from seeing what's going right. It blocks gratitude, and gratitude is the antidote to complaining. The more you focus on what's good, the less you'll feel the urge to complain. And guess what? You start attracting more positivity. People actually want to be around you because you're lifting them up, not bringing them down. So if you find yourself complaining about everything from the weather to the Wi-Fi, maybe it's time to step back and ask, am I trying to solve this, or am I just stuck in a habit of whining? Because let's face it, constant complaining isn't cute, and it's not helping anyone. Next time you're about to drop another complaint, try shifting your focus. Find something, anything to be grateful for. You'll be surprised at how much better you'll feel. And trust me, the people around you will appreciate it too. Complaining might seem like the easy way out, but finding the good, that's a real power move. Chronic lateness. Let's dive into a habit that many can relate to, chronic lateness. You know the type. There's always that one person who's perpetually behind schedule. You get the classic "I'm 5 minutes away" text, only to find they're actually 20 minutes late, or the infamous "I'm on my way" message sent from the comfort of their couch and pajamas. Yep, we're talking about those who seem to exist in their own time zone. Now, before you start firing off excuses, let's be honest. I've been that person, the self-proclaimed champion of arriving fashionably late. Spoiler alert, it was never fashionable, just inconsiderate. I thought it was my little act of rebellion against the clock, but really it was just disrespectful to others. I used to have a terrible track record of being late to everything. Meetings, dates, even important events. I genuinely believed I was immune to time's constraints. Then my best friend had a heart-to-heart with me, pointing out that my lateness wasn't just about my schedule. She said, "When you're late, it feels like you don't value my time." Ouch. That hit hard. Chronic lateness isn't just a personal quirk. It sends a message that your time is more important than anyone else's. Whether it's a job interview, a dinner with friends, or a simple meeting, habitual tardiness can lead others to view you as unreliable or disorganized. Here's a spicy truth. Being late often reveals deeper issues. For some, it's a lack of respect. For others, it's a way of avoiding commitment or confrontation. Sometimes we drag our feet because we're hesitant to face certain situations, thinking that if we arrive late, maybe people will assume we were just busy. I had to confront that uncomfortable truth myself. My chronic lateness wasn't just a time management issue. It stemmed from fear of certain circumstances. I realized I was using tardiness as a shield, an excuse to avoid being present. Once I recognized that, I began improving my time management and being honest with myself about why I was really avoiding certain things. Chronic lateness is more than just a bad habit. It's a reflection of deeper issues like self-respect and consideration for others. When you're late, you're not just messing with your schedule, you're indicating that you don't value others' time. Overcoming this isn't easy, but it's worth it. I started setting reminders, planning ahead, and even arriving early to counteract my lateness. It wasn't simple, but it made a massive difference. People began to trust me more, and I felt better about myself. I transformed from the person who was always late to someone others could rely on. So here's the challenge. If you find yourself chronically late, it's time to step it up. Start with small changes. Set your clocks ahead, plan your outfit the night before, or simply leave earlier. You'll see how your relationships and reputation improve. Being on time isn't just about respect, it's about embracing life's moments. So stop playing catch-up and start showing up on time. Trust me, it'll make all the difference. Playing the victim. Now, let's tackle another crowd pleaser. Playing the victim. We all know the type. Armed with a list of grievances, they seem to believe the universe is out to get them. And when something goes wrong, the go-to line is, "Why does this always happen to me?" Here's a reality check. Sometimes it's not the universe conspiring against you, it's your mindset. Life can throw some serious curveballs, and it can feel like you're the only one catching them. However, playing the victim can also be a clever way of sidestepping responsibility and genuine growth. And let's be honest, it's not exactly a pleasant vibe to be around. I've been guilty of this mindset myself. I'd lament about how nothing ever went my way. Missed a promotion? Oh, it's because my boss hates me. Relationship troubles? I must be cursed. It wasn't until a friend confronted me about my tendency to see myself as a victim, and I realized how deeply I was entrenched in that mentality. She asked, "Have you ever thought about how much you contribute to these situations?" Ouch, that was a wake-up call. Playing the victim can easily become a habit, like wearing a perpetual cloak of doom. You start believing that everything is happening to you rather than for you. It's exhausting for everyone around you and can seriously limit your personal growth. When you're always searching for someone to blame, you're not seeking solutions or opportunities to learn. Here's a spicy truth. Sometimes it's easier to play the victim than confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves. It's a way to dodge accountability. It's far more comfortable to point fingers and say, "It's not my fault," than to look in the mirror and ask, "What could I have done differently?" But let's get real. That's disempowering. I learned this the hard way. I spent a lot of time blaming others for my career setbacks. It wasn't until I started taking ownership of my actions that things changed. I stopped viewing myself as a victim and began to see myself as an active participant in my own life. It was liberating. Instead of waiting for things to improve on their own, I started making changes, setting goals, and actively working toward them. Playing the victim is like running on a hamster wheel. You exert a lot of energy without getting anywhere. When you stop adopting that mindset and start taking responsibility, you break free from the cycle. That doesn't mean life's challenges disappear, but it does mean you're better equipped to handle them. It's about shifting from a mindset of helplessness to one of empowerment. So, next time you catch yourself slipping into victim mode, try reframing the question. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I do about this?" Empower yourself to be the hero of your own story. It's far more rewarding than remaining the victim. And if you ever need a reminder, just revisit this video. No victim mentality here, just a little tough love. Conclusion. All right, folks, that wraps up our discussion on some habits that can make others look down on you. Whether it's gossiping, being passive-aggressive, avoiding responsibility, neglecting hygiene, or constantly complaining, it's important to recognize that these habits can be changed. Life is too short to be stuck in patterns that don't serve you or those around you. No one expects perfection, but a bit of self-awareness can go a long way. Even small changes can profoundly impact your relationships, confidence, and how you present yourself to the world. Plus, let's be honest, no one has ever complained about being around someone who's honest, accountable, and smells good. Here's my challenge to you. Think of one habit you could shift this week. Maybe it's owning up to a mistake, managing your negativity, or simply taking a quick shower. Baby steps, right? Thanks for sticking around. If you found some laughs, insights, or even a moment of self-reflection here, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who could use a gentle nudge. We're all in this together. Nobody's perfect, but we can all strive to be better. And remember, next time you feel tempted to gossip or complain, ask yourself, what would I say about me? That's usually a solid starting point. Catch you next time.